Okay, it's 1 minute after, so let's go ahead and get started, Critt. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everybody. My name is Dan Schoenbaum. Thank you for joining us for the HivePro LinkedIn Live session. We've done, now this is an ongoing series and something that's very timely. I'm joined by Critt Golden, who's our evangelist. Say hello, Critt.
Hello, everybody. Good to see you. Good to see you as well, Dan. Glad to be back at it.
Likewise. So format here, this is unscripted, live, just meant to be interactive. So feel free to ask us any questions. And without further ado, let's go ahead and get started. I'm really excited to be here. My background, I have over 10 years in threat intelligence. And I also served in the Israeli Defense Forces for several years. One of the things that I got to do in that role was I got to work with the United States Air Force, exchanging intelligence and specifically threat intelligence as well. So this is an exciting time. It's also a very scary time for a lot of our own employees who are based in Dubai and other places. So what we're going to do today is delve a little bit into the actual conflict itself, but talk about the, I would say, rather surprising response from Iran, which has been very widespread, very large, and it's also triggering a massive cyber response. And we're going to talk about that response itself and how to respond to it and how to defend yourselves against it. So before I hand it over to Critt, I just want to share a couple of things here, a little bit of background. So hopefully you can all see this. Can you see this, Critt?
I got it. Looks clean.
Awesome. So as we all know from the news, the conflict really started about almost 15 days ago on February 28th. There was an attack in broad daylight launched both by Israel and the US on Iran. Iran's Supreme Leader Khamenei was eliminated in that attack. And what we've seen since is a wave, a barrage of massive attacks almost every day, or actually every day. What that has done is triggered a couple of things. There is almost a near and total blackout of the internet in Iran. But despite that, there's been this massive wave of attacks that have come from Iran. Some launch within Iran. Most of them are actually being launched from outside of Iran. And those are coming from 6 different APT groups. Is this relevant to you where you are in the world? I would say absolutely. Just yesterday, a major US public company, Stryker, was attacked. And that attack was actually quite precise and quite aggressive. And it actually impacted their ability to deliver care to patients. It impacted their critical systems. And what we're seeing already is that the cyber attacks that are coming from Iran are large and widespread. So what Iran is essentially doing is they've launched aerial attacks on over 10 countries, but they've launched cyber attacks on over 16 countries. And why are they doing this? Obviously, they're upset at being attacked, but what they're really trying to do is put pressure on all these surrounding countries to get them to try to get the United States and Israel to stop this war. But unfortunately, these attacks are hitting a lot of different organizations. They're going after critical infrastructure. They're going after healthcare. And these are just some examples of attacks that have already happened. So initially, they were in the Middle East. They were Jordan, Kuwait, Saudi Arabia, and Israel. But what we're seeing now is that they're DDoS attacks, they're phishing campaigns, there are known CVEs that are being targeted. And that's really what we want to double click on today, are those CVEs and how they're being targeted. So threat intelligence is really important. And in my career, one of the challenges with threat intelligence has been that it's usually very hard to understand, and it could only be absorbed by the most elite cyber analysts, right? A lot of threat intelligence is network-based. It could be NetFlow. It could be passive DNS. And, your average vulnerability analyst isn't really trained to understand that. And I love what we've done at HivePro. We've actually democratized threat intelligence, and we make it easy to understand. And so we're going to actually show you some of our threat intelligence. It's written in plain English, easy to understand. It's actually free and available on our website. And it's built into our product, so you can search for evidence of those threat actors and understand if they're attacking you. So this is just a sample, and this is in a research report that's on our homepage of some of the CVEs that are being targeted, what different infrastructures they're going after. It could be, Palo Alto and Checkpoint, or things that you see that may be a little bit older, Fortinet gateways, for example.
Right.
We have a lot of specific example on the method, the actor, and how they're doing that attack. So I'm going to stop sharing, and I want to ask Critt to show us a little bit about that specific threat intelligence, and what do we cover? How broad is it? How current is it? And how can the people who are watching leverage that threat intelligence on their end to figure out if they're going to be next, and obviously to prevent themselves from being next? Over to you.
That's a great question, Dan. I appreciate you bringing it up. A couple of things that I thought of when you were showing that last slide was, one, threat intelligence is great. Put it in layman's terms. How in the world do I make it operational? How do I actually digest it and use it and get an outcome that actually moves the needle for my organization, instead of just being informed and having threat intelligence? It needs to be actionable, right, Dan? It needs to be operational. And if it's not, it's just noise, maybe, to some degree. So what I love about HivePro is not only the depth of our threat intelligence, and that's what I want to call out first. On our website, and what a lot of people don't realize is our threat intelligence is free. We release threat intelligence daily in finished intel form on our website. Some of the largest companies on the planet daily use our threat intelligence to help inform their cyber organizations. More importantly, come to our threat digest and just do a simple search for Iran as an example. That's the topic of the day. And you'll see quite a bit of threat intelligence related to Iran. And particularly, I know that we have a lot of oil and gas clients and customers on the phone today that are concerned about their critical infrastructure. You can download finished intelligence. In fact, I've already downloaded one here just to show you the level of the finished intel that comes from HivePro. Very proud of this. You can see here, this is relative to the Iranian cyber actors targeting critical infrastructure. And for any of our guests here today, they're in healthcare, government, IT of any kind, right? Energy, midstream providers. This should be a concern to you, right? So you can download the finished threat intelligence. We'll give you data on geo and vertical information. More importantly, we give you information on CVEs, all the attack details relevant to these attacks, recommendations on how to solve and mitigate the risk, and then all of the TTPs, which are very critical when you're driving to an exposure. I need to know the techniques and tactics and sub-techniques that are being used, right, to exploit my environment. So deep level of threat intelligence. But what I want to show you now is not just the beautiful finished threat intelligence, but how do I actually operationalize that? How do I take threat intelligence, Dan, enumerate through my environment, right, to correlated data, and understand what assets do I have that are impacted by this? But that's step one, right? It really goes far beyond that. And what I want to show you is really a clear identification in a risk view of what exposure management's all about. And because this is just an executive overview, won't spend any time here, but understanding your risk empirically and what your changes over time. But what I want to do in our threat intelligence module is actually see, you know what, thanks for the threat intelligence. Am I susceptible to that? Am I patched? And then importantly, if I'm vulnerable to that, do I have an exposure? And an exposure very simply is, do my compensating controls have the ability to block that? If they don't, I am exposed. What I did was extracted the CVEs from that list, and he talked about one of the ones used by Pioneer Kitten. It's a brand new vulnerability, and it's 2026. Let's actually take this vulnerability in my environment. I want to go search for it. And not only do I want to search for it, I want to see what's impacting me by simply clicking on impacting assets. If I want to see all the threat intelligence around it, I can uncheck that and see all the threat intelligence in the platform, but we're being selfish, right, Dan? We don't have time to read all this threat intelligence. I'm trying to operationalize this data. I'm trying to actually understand if I can get healthier or if I'm actually in a bind with an exposure. So how does that work? I've pasted in this CVE relative to the Pioneer Kitten attack and what they're taking advantage of today. And I see that I have 2 threat advisories, and they're red, by the way. That's our critical threat advisories. And I have impacted assets. I can easily download that same finished intelligence reports I showed you. But what's impactful about HivePro is not only can I show you what assets are impacted and what your patch level is, I give you a wealth of data that can let you drive to empiric exposure. What does that mean? Well, I'll have the ability to show you our scanner versus any other scanner that enumerated the vulnerability. But not only that, our ability to do signatureless vulnerability detection. If there's not a signature for a vulnerability, we already know that data because of our threat intelligence and our asset inference on your environment. I know what you're susceptible to even without a signature. Critical differentiator with HivePro. But in this same threat intelligence view, not only can I see the assets that are vulnerable in my patch status, but what do I do about it? Right? That's often the question we get, Dan, is, all right, so I'm unpatched and I don't have a patch from a manufacturer. What do I do? The question is, run simulation. We actually give you the ability to challenge your compensating controls if you're not patched. Know if you can block it. Know if you can detect it or alert on it before the bad guy gets to you. This is proactive security work. Not only that, in that same threat intelligence, I'm going to give you all the MITRE data that you can use to consume. We map this to MITRE, but I'll pull it out relative to this threat intelligence report. Who the actors are, if there are any attribution for an actor, what the TTPs are that they're using, what the industries and verticals are. And then I love this feature with an integration to your EDR tool. I can push IOCs to your EDR tool or your SIM, trying to mitigate the risk, not only understand where I'm unpatched, but mitigate the risk through compensating controls. What makes this very, yes, please, is there a question?
We have a live question from the audience. Somebody asked if our threat intelligence is available through an API.
Our threat intelligence is available through our REST API if you're a customer, right? So it can be extracted via our REST API. It's not available from an API perspective from our website.
Got it. So
hope I answered that question with clarity.
Yeah. So all of our finished intelligence is available on the website. You can query it, you can download it and read it. It's in the platform itself. And then, of course, what's going to be different from HivePro and a traditional vulnerability scanner. Traditional vulnerability scanner is just going to show you CVEs. What we're showing you here is which CVEs are in your environment, which are being actively attacked. And what Critt just showed is actually a breach and attack simulation, knowing which ones are most susceptible to help you prioritize. So sorry to interrupt you, Critt. I'll give it back to you. Just wanted to ask that question from the audience.
No, that's a great question. And again, we have some of the largest companies on the planet consuming our threat intelligence. It's daily active threat intelligence, very timely and relevant. Imagine now, if you will, that correlated with your assets, your patch status, and all of your assessment tools to have this active threat hunting ability in your environment. But even if I can find the threat, Dan, to your point, what do I do about it? What do I do about it? I have assets, they're not patched. How do I know if I'm actually exposed or just vulnerable? It's where I love our ability to do attack simulations. And that's a breach and attack simulation, if you will. That means, Dan, running simulations of malware, running simulations of ransomware, running simulations of RCE code to understand, can I block it? Can I detect it? Can I learn? Is that we curate this intelligence for you actively on the fly. You have to be a professional or a red teamer or a pen tester. What I need to know is what vulnerabilities are under attack in my environment. I want to run that simulation and start to understand if I'm exposed or just vulnerable. The point of HivePro, have a single unified view of the risk to my environment relative to the exposure, not just the vulnerability. And our threat intelligence is a critical component to actively driving that proactive security work in our platform, actually making it operational, not just an intelligence feed, Dan. We know that Intel providers over the years have greatly struggled with how do I be more valuable to my customer, having a way to consume it and turn it into action in the form of simulations. Understanding my capability to prevent and detect and block across MITRE attack is pivotal to understanding my exposure. Let's not just look at our organization through the lens of the vulnerability. let's start looking at our organization through the lens of the attacker, understanding what our true risk is over time and if we're getting better or worse. I hope that was informative, Dan. Were there any other questions from the class?
Somebody asked, how can we help them know if they are susceptible to any of these CVEs? Is there a way that they could try the product or get sort of an assessment and figure that out?
That's a great question. I'm asked that a lot, Critt. I would love to take a quick glance because I have a bunch of vulnerabilities and misconfigurations. Am I seeing it through the right lens? Am I looking at 0 days? Am I looking at exposures? We actually make that very easy to do free assessments. An NDA is required, obviously, Dan. We want to protect both sides of the party. But we have the ability to spin up an ISO certified environment. And all that's needed, which makes this very innovative, is I don't have to deploy anything or do integrations in your environment. All that's needed is an output from your vulnerability tool. Think of a Qualys output or a Tenable output or a Nessus output. I can ingest a vulnerability file from an output from your scanner and in less than 1 hour show you prioritization, critical exposures, and what your risk score is based on our empiric scoring algorithm in your environment in about an hour. Once you get the file, it takes less than an hour to do that for clients that want to see that data. It's a great question.
So it's really helping them quickly understand, am I exposed or am I vulnerable?
And that's a critical difference, right? The risk isn't for the vulnerability. Risk is associated with the exposure. So we can show you your exposure level with your vulnerabilities, not looking at just your vulnerabilities, but what that means to you, taking your vulnerabilities from a number down to what's actually exploitable in your environment. We can do that in about an hour. Very unique in the industry.
Great. Well, we're out of time for today. I wish we had more time.
Already out of time? We're already out of time? That's unfortunate.
Exciting topic, and this is a very dynamic situation that's changing every day. But thanks, everyone, for joining us. We had a lot of people sign up and attend, and we're also going to share this recording out for people who couldn't make it. Thank you, Critt, and thanks, everybody, for joining us. It was informative and valuable. Have a great day. And
thanks, everybody.